Alright, hello and welcome ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. My name is Eric and this is the other CEDH, where the C stands for casual. We are your one-stop shop for all things casual kitchen table Magic the Gathering. Thank you for joining me here today. So we're testing out a new piece of equipment. The other CEDH got a new toy today. We're working with a brand new microphone. So whenever this whole thing is over, if you guys want to drop a comment and let me know if you think the audio quality has been improved by the acquisition of said microphone. Just take a couple seconds, let me know what you think. We're going to record this episode and we're going to see how it goes. But today we're going to be taking a look at a pet deck of mine. This is a mono black commander that I thought would be really cool to build around. It's been through a lot of different iterations, and the build that I have now is one that I am pretty happy with. The power level sits right where I like it, and while it's not very competitive, it can hold its own in almost any kind of environment, from super jank to super spiky and all points in between. Alright folks, today we're going to be looking at the mono black legendary that I like to call the Shotgun Samurai, Toshiro Umezawa. Toshiro is 1 black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human samurai. He has Bushido 1, so if he blocks or becomes blocked, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn, which in most decks is never going to matter. In fact, in this deck, it rarely ever matters. The important line of text says that whenever a creature an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from play, you may play target instant card in your graveyard. If that card will be put into a graveyard this turn, remove it from the game instead. So Toshiro is a Snapcaster Mage for your instance whenever a creature an opponent controls dies. This is actually a super cool effect that leads to a lot of spell slinging shenanigans in mono black and can lead to some really cool chains that can do a lot of cool things. As with all builds, we're going to be looking at 4 different categories: mana ramp, card draw, instance that we want to recur, and how do we win this game. Let's not waste any time and dive right into it. Mana ramp in mono black is not that hard to do, so we're running Soul Ring because of course we are. Thran Dynamo is one of my favorite rocks. I wish I had more copies of it and would run it in every EDH deck I have. It costs 4 mana, but it taps for 3. Super good in any EDH deck. Guardian Idol and Prismatic Lens each cost 2 and tap for 1 and are great in the early game. Urgolem's Eye and Sisay's Ring are great rocks if you are on a budget. They're like a Hedron Archive without the card draw, so we put those in this deck. And finally, Worn Power Stone is in this deck, or as I like to call it, Bad Soul Ring. Okay, all kidding aside, it's fine. It's a little slow, but it's another good budget mana rock for this deck, so we decided to put it in here. Alright, let's move on to card draw, shall we? Succumb to Temptation is a good fit for this deck. 3 mana, draw 2 cards, lose 2 life at instant speed, and we can use this twice when Toshiro is in play. Read the Bones is not at instant speed, but it does let you scry 2, then draw 2, then lose 2 life. Necrologia is probably the best form of draw in this deck. You can only cast it on your end step, but you can exchange any number of points from your life total for that many cards. Now guys, it's important to point out that your life total is a resource, and this is a game that is all about resources. Now, it's not uncommon for me to cast this and pay 10 life to draw 10 cards. And anytime that I do that with this card, people in my playgroup always look at me like I'm nuts. Now, yes, you will have to go to discard since it's your end step, but look at it this way. A, the sheer number of cards that you just got to see and choose from is astonishing. B, there are a couple of ways in this deck to gain that life back, so the life loss isn't that big of a deal. And C, a lot of the cards that you discard could be instants that you can cast again from your graveyard while Toshiro is in play. Added gravy on top of all of that, you can cast Necrologia from your graveyard for a second time when Toshiro is on the battlefield. Guys, put Necrologia in this deck. Moonlight Bargain is 5 mana instant speed that will let you dig 5 cards deep, pay 2 life for each one that you want to put into your hand, and send the rest to your bin. And Harvester of Souls is just sick in this deck, drawing you a card each time a non-token creature dies, even ones that you don't control. Given the amount of removal that we have in this deck, this bad Mamma Jamma is going to put in some serious work for us. Plus, he's a 5/5 with Death Touch, so he makes a fantastic blocker and even a good attacker that people will not be willing to block. And finally, what's better than drawing cards? Tutoring for cards. So we're running some of the more budget tutors with Diabolic Tutor and Razaketh Right. They are pretty expensive mana-wise compared to the other black tutors, but since we are focusing on casual Magic, these are fine for this deck. Finally, Final Parting will put one card in your hand, the other directly into your graveyard, so you can go dig for your Necrologia and stick it in the graveyard, then cast it again when you really need it. Okay, so our next section is going to be based around instants that we want to recur. Victim of Night is weirdly specific pinpoint instant speed removal for 2 black mana, as is Terror, which is 1 and a black, destroy target non-artifact, non-black creature. Now, the cool thing about removal spells like this is that if Toshiro is in play, playing one of these spells will trigger Toshiro because a creature is being killed. Now, the way that those triggers come off the stack, the creature and the instant both hit the graveyard at the same time when the spell resolves. So Toshiro will see that the creature has died and see the instant that you use to kill it in your graveyard. So with that trigger, you can just cast the kill spell again and kill something else, but then that spell will get exiled. So each of these single target removal spells almost becomes a mini board wipe with Toshiro, and that is super cool. That's why I like calling Toshiro the Shotgun Samurai, because he just kind of runs around the table blasting creatures off the board with the same spells over and over again, because he can let us recast them when a creature dies. Oh, it's so cool. Anyway, getting back to the topic at hand, Doomblade is a 2-mana instant that will blast any non-black creature off the board, and Malicious Affliction is killer in this deck. 2 mana, kills a creature, kills 2 with that morbid ability, meaning we get to kill 2 creatures if another creature had died that turn. So one of the cool things you can do is cast Victim of Night and kill your opponent's, I don't know, Jin-Gitaxias. Because, yeah, screw that player. Anyway, Victim of Night kills Jin-Gitaxias, then you cast Malicious Affliction, which will kill another 2 creatures, which triggers Toshiro again, allowing you to cast Malicious Affliction from your graveyard, which kills another 2 creatures. Guys, you just killed 4 creatures for 4 black mana. Man, this is just super sweet in this deck. Murder and Go for the Throat are in here as well. Again, very cheap pinpointed creature killers. And of course, we're also running Scour from Existence, which we can cast twice with Toshiro to get rid of anything that may be causing you a headache. Dan, that Throne of the God Pharaoh's got to go, man. I'm sorry. And while we have a lot of instant speed removal at our disposal, let's take a quick look at some of the other removal that we have in this deck. We have Noxious Gear Hulk, which will kill a creature when it comes into play and let you gain life equal to its toughness. Shriekmaw can be evoked for 1 and a black and can snipe most problems off the board. Gifted Aetherborn and Vampire Nighthawk might as well be removal with that Death Touch ability and make fantastic blockers and will deter a lot of attacks. Now, the few creatures that I did put in this deck, almost all of them have Death Touch because I thought it synergized really well with what Toshiro wanted to be doing. So we're also going to be running things like Hired Poisoner and Ogre Slumlord. Ogre Slumlord is particularly good in this deck because he nets you a 1/1 token with Death Touch for each creature that dies. He is just fantastic in this deck. And now getting on to the most important of all of our categories, how are we going to win this game? So I said earlier in the video that this deck has gone through a couple of different iterations. The first build that I had of this deck was a Theft style build, and it ran things like Grave Betrayal and Chainer Dementia Master. Now, I do have to say that I loved that build of this deck, and it was really fun, but it never won games ever. And I think part of the problem with that is that there were a lot of mental hoops to jump through because I steal the best stuff from the most threatening player, and then I use that stuff to kill that player. Now, when that player dies, all the stuff that I have of theirs gets exiled. So I can't use their stuff to kill the other player. Now, sure, I can try and steal the other player's stuff and try to kill them that way as well, but by that point, most of my theft pieces have been dealt with, in which case I didn't really have any way to win the game other than just to chip in for 2 commander damage at a time here and there. And that seemed really inefficient, so I stripped that build apart and tried building the deck the way it is now, which is a strange sort of control / artifact matters Voltron build. This may sound a little weird to some of you, but let's break down the win conditions and maybe you'll see what I mean. Prowler's Helm is an equipment that makes it so that Toshiro can't be blocked except by walls, and Suspicious Bookcase lets us pay 3 and tap to make Toshiro unblockable. We're also going to pump his power with things like Blackblade Reforge and Stratus Scythe. Blackblade Reforge equips for cheap because Toshiro is legendary, and Stratus Scythe will let us go exile a swamp and will give Toshiro +1/+1 for each swamp on the battlefield, not just our own. Lash Writhe and Nightmare Lash, aside from both having some seriously badass art, are both great pieces of equipment that will pump Toshiro based on the number of swamps you control, and can both be equipped for absolutely no mana. Night Howler can be bestowed upon Toshiro to give him +X/+X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards, and with the amount of bodies we're going to be sending to the graveyard, this can make Toshiro into a monster. Bone Horde does the exact same thing as Night Howler, but it is on an equipment. If you can get both of these to stick to Toshiro and there are still 3 other players, it is not uncommon for Toshiro to be at 30 power. I've seen it happen. It is super cool. And of course, if good old commander damage doesn't work, you can always run things like Grafted Exoskeleton and Phyresis. Yes, I know, I'm that guy. I'm sorry, guys, but this was a natural fit. Grafted Exoskeleton pumps Toshiro and gives him Infect, and Phyresis will also make him hit for those sweet, sweet poison counters. Oh my god, I'm such a horrible person. Tainted Strike is here as well. Instant speed infection goodness that can be recurred with Toshiro on the battlefield. Alright, so now that we've broken down the deck, let's talk turkey. How much will it cost you to build this deck? Once again, going by Card Kingdom lowest near mint price, we're looking at $68.11 as of the time of this recording, so not too terrible, still at that sub $100 level. Now, we are running some of the more expensive rocks like Soul Ring. I don't have a Soul Ring for every deck I have, I just happen to have one in here. If you have it, put it in. If you want to save $5, take it out. Noxious Gear Hulk is also still around $5. I happened to crack one in a booster and thought this was a really good home for it. Fatal Push is $3? Does someone want to explain to me how that happened? Like, I got a couple of copies that were, I think, draft chaff, but okay, if you want to save $3, it's a real easy cut. Solemn Simulacrum or Sad Robot is almost $7. I threw him in here specifically for the ramp, but you know the drill. You want to save some money, you can cut him from this deck. And now looking at the mana base, this is really straightforward. We're running a Rogue's Passage to get in that easy commander damage KO. We're also running the budget Cabal Coffers with Cabal Stronghold. Yeah, I know it's not great, but I happen to have one, and I've been surprised with how well it has worked for me in this deck. Mortuary Mire is here to get a dead creature back to the top of your library, and the rest of the mana base is just 32 swamps. Now, I know that it looks like the land count is a little on the low side, but mana has never been a problem for me with this deck at all. Toshiro is pretty cheap at 3 mana, and a lot of your removal is very cheap to cast, which is what Toshiro wants to do anyway, so I think this mana base will be just fine for you guys. Alright, now looking at the alternate build paths and upgrades is going to be interesting for this build, because again, I already talked about an alternate build path that I didn't think was all that great, but again, you guys could do the Grave Betrayal and Chainer Dementia Master thing. Maybe you can get it to work better than I did. I'm not really sure. Give it a shot if you feel like it and tell me what you think. It also occurs to me as I'm sitting here typing this and taking a look through Scryfall and some other various websites. Another interesting alternate build path that you could go with this would maybe be Demon Tribal. I mean, it makes sense because demons tend to have a lot of enter the battlefield effects that will kill a certain type of creature, maybe kill multiple creatures, and some demons even have board wipes attached to them. Shadowborn Demon and Woebringer Demon will each lower your opponent's creature count, getting you Toshiro triggers to cast instants out of your graveyard and are huge combat annoyances all on their own. Pestilence Demon is, well, Pestilence on a demon. I wonder how they came up with that. No, I'll be here for hours trying to figure that one out. Anyway, there's Pestilence Demon as well as Kotha-fed Soul Hoarder, which will let you draw a card and ping you for 1 anytime an opponent's permanent hits the graveyard. We already have Harvester of Souls in this deck, so we'll keep him in here. And finally, Reaver Demon is a grossly mana-costed 6/6 flying one-sided board wipe, and I never realized how great that sentence sounded until I said it out loud. Wow, that is awesome. Put Reaver Demon in this deck if you decide to go Demon Tribal. Alright, so yeah guys, that's the deck. It's not overly fancy and it's not particularly powerful, but it is a ton of fun to chain together your kill spells into these really awesome plays. You know, you terror on your end step and kill the thing, which lets you cast Necrologia and draw 8 more cards. Or someone swings at an opponent with their 11 power commander, you go for the throat on the only blocker that they've got, trigger Toshiro, and then you recast Tainted Strike on your opponent's commander, and you use your opponent to kill another opponent? Guys, if that scenario doesn't sound awesome to you, then don't build this deck. But if this is the sort of mental exercise that you enjoy, then I think that you're going to have a lot of fun with this deck. It's a really cool mono black build that you guys can play around with and see what you can do with it. As always, if you like what we're doing here, feel free to like, subscribe, and smash that like button. The Other CEDH has a Facebook page. We have a Twitter page. I feel like the channel is growing day by day. We just hit 40 subscribers, which is honestly 40 more than I thought I'd have at this point. I love and cherish every single one of you guys. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me. But I think that's going to be it for me for now. Once again, my name is Eric. This is The Other CEDH, and we will see you guys next time.